Next, we're looking at angles of any magnitude. So far we've only looked at angles up to 90 degrees, acute angles. Now we're looking at more than 90 degrees, or including that 90 degrees, any angle up to our 360 or beyond. So we split it into our quadrants, but what we'll do, we'll start with looking at our different curves here. If we look at our sine curve follows this pattern here, so it's a wave that continues the same pattern forever. So what we do, we start at 0 degrees, at 45 degrees, at 90 degrees we're at 1 here. So 90 degrees we're at 1. Here at 180 degrees we're back at 0. 270 degrees we're here at -1. 360 degrees we're back at 0. And that pattern continues there. If we look at our cosine curve, it looks very similar. However, we start here, if we mark us in to try and line up, we start at 1, then we go through to 0, -1, up to 1, and then it keeps on going from there. So here we're at 1 at 0. At 90 degrees we're at 0. 180 degrees we're at -1. 270 degrees we're back at 0. And 360 degrees we're back at 1 there. So it's the same shape, just out of phase. It's moved across a bit there. And then we're going to look at our tangent curve, and this one is a little bit different. So here we have, it's a similar concept but different here. And we have asymptotes. And so asymptotes, our curve will approach but will never reach. So at 0, we're at 0. We increase exponentially there, or increase forever there, and decrease. And we just have this pattern repeating and repeating here. So at 0 degrees, we're at 0, and we actually have no result for 90 degrees. Then we have results in between. At 180 degrees, we're at 0. 270, we have no result. 360, we're back at 0. And these split into our quadrants here. So there's our 90 degrees. If we colour this in, so here, this is our first quadrant here. So we mark this is our quadrant 1. And here we see our sine curve is positive, our cosine curve is positive, and our tangent curve is positive here. We're all above our x-axis. If we move to our second quadrant, so our second quadrant is here to the 180 degrees there. So this is our quadrant 2. We're splitting it into quadrants for four different parts. So our quadrant 2 here. If we look at our sine curve, it's positive. Our cosine curve here, we're negative. And our tangent curve here, we're negative. If we look at our third quadrant between 180 and 270 degrees there. Okay, so in this third quadrant, we can see we only have one that's positive there. So our quadrant 3, our tangent is positive, our cosine is negative, and our sine is negative here. Then our fourth quadrant between 270 and 360 degrees here. So we see here our quadrant 4. So here we're negative for our sine, positive for cosine, and negative for our tangent function there. And this is what we mean by our quadrants. We've taken our whole 360 degrees and we've split it into the 4 parts: 0 to 90, 90 to 180, 180 to 270, and 270 to 360. And what we've done, instead of having it run around like that, we're taking it around in a circle. So 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and 360 degrees is back all the way around our circle, back to the start here. So our angles of any magnitude, we have our quadrant 1, and remember we go in an anti-clockwise here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're anti-clockwise. And then we use our unit 1. So our 1 is our length of our radius within this circle. And we have our angle theta. So here we have this angle theta, we go between 1 and minus 1. Same as we did here, we're between 1 and minus 1. So if we look at our first quadrant, as we said before, we had all three were positive. All were positive here. Our second quadrant, we only have cosine, so we only have sine that's positive. Cosine and tangent are negative. Our third quadrant, sine and cosine are negative, and tangent is positive. And our fourth quadrant, sine and tangent are negative, and our cosine is positive. So here we've got all of that, and here we have our shortcut, all stations to central. So here we draw up our thing, all stations to central. What we mean by this, all positive. Here S for stations, sine positive only. 2 is our tangent, positive only. And here central cosine, positive only. So it's one of our things that we generally remember, but we can work this one out anyway.